A little girl was abandoned and crying on a Texas road. Until a cowboy saved her, the sun was slowly sinking behind the endless fields of Texas, turning the sky into a mix of soft oranges and gentle pinks. Along a quiet, lonely road, there was no sign of life except the occasional crow flying overhead. The road itself was dusty, lined with dry grass that swayed with the light breeze, and it stretched far in both directions with nothing but the horizon to mark the end. On this empty road, a little girl sat huddled on the hard ground. She was very small, no older than 6, with tangled hair that fell around her dirt-streaked face. Her clothes were worn, slightly torn and dusty from being on the road for who knows how long. She clutched a small, faded teddy bear, the one thing she had kept close through all the confusion and fear. The girl's eyes were red and puffy from crying. Her tiny hands trembled as she hugged her teddy bear tightly, as if it could protect her from the big, frightening world around her. She whispered her name softly, almost hoping someone would hear her. "Emily, Emily, is anyone there?" But the only reply was the soft rustle of grass in the wind. Tears rolled down her cheeks, leaving streaks of dirt behind. She looked around, hoping to see someone familiar, but the road was empty. There were no cars, no people, not even a dog to chase. Just her, the road, and the silence of the fields stretching endlessly. Emily remembered the day before, though the memory was blurry and painful. She remembered being in a car, sitting quietly, holding her small teddy bear. She had been told to stay calm, that everything would be fine, but then the car had stopped. People she didn't know had spoken to each other in voices that sounded harsh and serious. And then, before she could understand what was happening, she had been left behind. Alone. She tried to call after them, but the car had already driven away, leaving her in the middle of nowhere. The feeling of abandonment was new and terrifying. Her stomach hurt from hunger, her throat was dry, and the ache in her chest was not just from crying. It was from a deep, raw fear that she had never felt before. The wind blew and Emily shivered. She tried to stand up, but her legs felt weak. She took a small step forward, then another, hoping maybe someone had missed her, that someone would come back. But with each step, the emptiness around her felt bigger and the fear in her heart grew heavier. Her small voice called out again, trembling, "Please, someone help me." Hours passed slowly. Emily wandered a little, sitting down whenever her legs grew tired, always hugging her teddy bear. She imagined what it would be like to have someone take care of her again. She imagined a kind woman or a gentle man who would pick her up and tell her everything was going to be okay. But the road offered no comfort. The sun began to lower in the sky, and shadows stretched across the fields like long fingers. Soon the sky would turn dark, and the road would become even scarier. Emily had never spent a night alone outside, and the thought made her hug her teddy bear even tighter. Every little sound made her jump. A rustling in the grass would make her freeze. She thought it might be someone coming for her, or it might be a dangerous animal. She didn't know, so she just stayed as still as she could, whispering to herself. "It's okay, Emily, it's okay." She repeated it over and over, trying to believe it herself. She remembered her mother's voice from long ago, warm and soft, telling her that everything would be fine. But now that voice seemed like a memory from a distant world. Emily didn't know if anyone else would ever come for her. The sun continued its slow journey toward the horizon. Birds flew home to their nests, and the fields grew quieter. Emily sat down again, letting herself rest, her little body curled around her teddy bear. She wondered if she would have to spend the night on the hard road. The idea was frightening. She thought about how cold it would get after the sun disappeared. She tried to imagine the warmth of a blanket, the taste of a hot meal, the comfort of a soft bed, but those things seemed so far away. The road felt endless, and Emily felt very small. Despite her fear, Emily's little mind tried to stay busy. She looked around at the fields and trees, trying to notice small things that might distract her from the scary thoughts. She saw a butterfly land on a flower and watched it flap its delicate wings. She imagined herself flying away with it, far from the loneliness of the road. She spotted a bird hopping in the dirt, pecking for seeds, and tried to mimic its little movements just to feel a tiny sense of control. These small observations were the only things keeping her mind from giving in to panic. As the evening approached, the temperature dropped slightly. Emily's small body shivered under her thin clothes. She tried to rub her arms for warmth, but it wasn't enough. Her stomach growled from hunger. She had not eaten since morning, and the little bit of food she had with her was gone. Her teddy bear felt comforting, but it couldn't fill the empty space in her belly. She began to cry again, quietly this time, letting the tears fall without worrying who might hear. She whispered to herself, "Someone will find me, someone will find me." But deep down, she didn't know if it was true. Just when Emily was starting to lose hope, a faint sound reached her ears. It was soft at first, almost like the wind, but there was a steady rhythm to it. She tilted her head, trying to listen more carefully. The sound grew louder, steady and calm, a slow clopping noise coming closer along the road. Emily's heart skipped a beat. Could it be someone? She stood up shakily, hugging her teddy bear tightly. From over a small hill, a figure appeared. A man on horseback, riding slowly, looked around the road as he moved. His clothing was simple but sturdy, worn from work outdoors. A wide-brimmed hat shaded his face, but Emily could see the kind eyes underneath. The man's horse was steady and calm, and he guided it closer to her with gentle hands. Emily froze, unsure whether to run or stay. She had been let down before, and trust was hard to give. But something in the man's presence, the way he moved carefully, made her feel a tiny bit safer. The cowboy slowed his horse to a stop a few feet away. He leaned down slightly, speaking softly so as not to startle her. "Hey there, little one, are you all right?" His voice was calm, gentle, and filled with a kindness that Emily had not felt in a long time. For a moment she didn't respond. She just looked at him, eyes wide, gripping her teddy bear like it was a shield. But the man didn't push. He stayed still, letting her decide what to do. After a long moment, Emily's curiosity and hope overcame her fear. She whispered, her voice shaking, I'm all alone." Tears filled her eyes again, and she hugged her teddy bear even tighter. The cowboy nodded slowly, as if understanding everything without needing words. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small bottle of water and a snack. "Here, take a drink." "You look thirsty." Emily hesitated, but the hunger and dryness in her throat were too strong to ignore. She carefully took the water, sipping it slowly, and then nibbled on the snack. It was the first time she had tasted something comforting in what felt like forever. The cowboy smiled gently, not in a way that made her scared, but in a way that felt safe. "You're safe now," he said. "No one is going to hurt you, I promise." Emily's little body shook with relief and exhaustion. She felt like she could finally take a deep breath. Maybe, just maybe, someone had come for her. The sun was low in the sky now, painting the fields with golden light. Emily's small fears were still there, but the presence of the cowboy gave her a small spark of hope. She realized she was not completely alone anymore. Someone had noticed her, had stopped for her, and wanted to help. And that thought, fragile though it was, made the road seem a little less scary. Emily clutched her teddy bear one last time, whispered a soft, "Thank you," and allowed herself to believe even a little that maybe things could get better. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew that she wasn't completely alone anymore. And for the first time since the day she was left on the road, she let a small, hesitant smile appear on her face. As the cowboy gently guided his horse closer to her, ready to take the first steps toward helping her, Emily looked ahead at the horizon. The long, lonely road would soon lead her somewhere safe, somewhere warm, somewhere she could begin to feel hope again. And though the journey was just beginning, she felt a quiet courage rise inside her. A tiny, fragile courage that perhaps, just perhaps, would grow into something strong enough to carry her through the nights ahead. The cowboy's horse moved slowly along the dusty Texas road, each hoofall steady and calm. Emily held tightly to her small teddy bear, her tiny fingers gripping the soft fur as if it were her only anchor in the world. Her heart still raced, not from fear this time, but from the strange, new feeling of being noticed, of being cared for. The man riding beside her was tall and sturdy, wearing worn jeans, a flannel shirt, and a broad hat that shaded his face. He spoke softly, never rushing, letting her see that she was safe in his presence. "You're safe now," he said again, as if saying it once wasn't enough. "I'll take care of you. You won't be alone anymore." Emily nodded slightly, not trusting her voice yet, but the warmth in his eyes gave her a small sense of relief. She hadn't felt safe in what felt like forever, and though she still trembled, she felt that maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't entirely cruel. The cowboy noticed her hesitation and didn't push her to speak. He kept the horse at a slow pace, watching her carefully. He could see the dirt in her hair, the torn clothes, the small scratches on her arms and knees. It was clear she had been on the road for some time, and she was hungry, tired, and scared. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small packet of cookies he always carried for emergencies. "Here," he said gently. "Eat a few, you need energy." Emily stared at the cookies for a moment, unsure if she should trust them, but her empty stomach gave her courage. She took them carefully, nibbling at first, then eating more as she realized that the food was safe. The cowboy watched silently, letting her eat at her own pace, understanding that trust could not be forced. As Emily ate, she began to look around at the world she had feared for so long. The fields stretched endlessly, golden with the late afternoon sun, and small birds hopped among the grass, calling to one another. Emily had never noticed these little details before. She had been too busy surviving, too busy being afraid. Now she could see the world as a place that might not be entirely dangerous. The cowboy started talking softly about the land, telling small stories about the animals, the trees, and the rivers. He spoke about the horses he rode, the work he did on the ranch, and the long days he spent in the sun. Emily listened quietly, occasionally glancing up at him, curious despite herself. His voice was calm and gentle, and somehow it carried a sense of safety. She felt that he would not hurt her, that he genuinely wanted to help her. After a while, Emily finally spoke, her voice small and hesitant. I don't have anyone," she whispered. The words came out slowly, as if saying them too loudly might make them untrue. The cowboy nodded, listening carefully. "I know," he said softly, "and that's not fair. You shouldn't have to be alone. But you're safe now, and I'll make sure you're looked after." Emily's eyes welled with tears again, but this time they were not only from fear, they were tears of relief. For the first time in a long while, someone was telling her the truth. Someone was making her feel safe without asking for anything in return. The road stretched ahead, empty and silent except for the sound of the horses' hooves and the soft whisper of the wind. Emily began to ask questions, cautiously at first. Where are we going?" she asked. The cowboy smiled faintly. "We're going somewhere safe," he said. "A place where you can rest, eat, and have someone watch over you. You'll be able to stay there until we figure out what's best for you." Emily's brow furrowed slightly. She didn't understand exactly what that meant, but the tone in his voice told her that he was telling the truth. Along the way, the cowboy kept checking on her, asking if she was comfortable, if she was too hot or too cold, if she needed water. Each small question, each small act of care, helped Emily feel more secure. She had been alone for so long that even small gestures of kindness felt like miracles. She began to relax, sitting a little straighter on the horse, holding her teddy bear more loosely. As they rode, Emily told bits of her story, starting slowly, carefully, testing whether the man would respond with anger or disbelief. But he only listened, nodding gently, sometimes asking small questions to help her explain more. She told him about the day she had been left, about the strangers in the car, about how scared she had felt when the world had seemed empty and cold. The cowboy didn't interrupt or rush her. He let her tell the story in her own time. He understood that the act of speaking could be healing, even if it was painful. And as she spoke, Emily felt the burden of her fear begin to lift slightly. She wasn't alone anymore. Someone was listening, someone cared. By now the sun was nearly gone, and the sky had deepened into shades of purple and red. The air had cooled, and Emily shivered slightly. The cowboy noticed immediately and pulled his jacket from his shoulders, gently wrapping it around her small frame. "This will keep you warm," he said kindly. Emily hugged the jacket close, feeling the warmth seep into her cold body. It was a small comfort, but it meant more than words could say. They rode for some time in silence, the road stretching endlessly in front of them. Emily watched the shadows grow longer across the fields and felt a strange calm settle over her. The fear that had consumed her since morning was still there, lingering in the back of her mind, but it was no longer overwhelming. The cowboy's presence, his steady voice, and the gentle movements of the horse beneath her gave her a sense of safety she had never known before. Eventually, they reached a small path that led off the main road. The cowboy guided his horse carefully down this path, which was lined with tall trees that offered some shelter from the wind. The sun had dipped below the horizon now, and the first stars were beginning to appear in the sky. Emily looked up at them, feeling a sense of wonder she hadn't experienced in a long time. She pointed to one of the brighter stars. "Is that a star?" she asked softly. "Yes," the cowboy said. "That's a star, and no matter what happens, it will always be there. Just like there are people who care, even when you can't see them." Emily smiled faintly, her small hands clutching her teddy bear a little less tightly. As they continued along the path, Emily began to ask more questions about the cowboy, about his horse, and about the place they were going. He answered patiently, telling her about the small ranch where she would be safe, about the kind woman who ran it, and about other children who had stayed there before. Emily listened intently, imagining what it would be like to have a warm bed, food to eat, and people who would care for her. The thought filled her with hope. Soon, the small lights of the ranch appeared in the distance. The warm glow of lanterns and the sound of soft voices carried through the air. Emily's heart raced with excitement and relief. She had never imagined that such a place existed where she could feel safe again. The cowboy guided his horse carefully toward the ranch gates, and Emily could see the welcoming faces of the people waiting inside. When they arrived, the cowboy led Emily off the horse and gently set her down. "You're safe now," he said again. "These people will take care of you. You don't have to be afraid." Emily looked up at him, her eyes wide and filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was small, but it carried all the emotion she had been holding inside since the morning. The woman who ran the ranch stepped forward, kneeling to Emily's level. She smiled warmly, her eyes gentle and kind. "Hello, sweetie, you're safe now," she said softly. "Come inside, we'll make sure you're comfortable." Emily hesitated for a moment, looking back at the cowboy. He nodded reassuringly. "Go on," he said. "You'll be okay." With that, Emily allowed the woman to take her hand, leading her inside to warmth, food, and comfort. The cowboy stayed outside for a moment, watching as Emily disappeared into the safety of the ranch. He felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that he had helped someone in need. He adjusted his hat, patted his horse gently, and began the ride back down the road, leaving the girl in the care of people who could help her heal. But even as he rode away, he knew that the small spark of hope he had helped light in her heart would grow stronger with each passing day. Emily sat inside the ranch, wrapped in a soft blanket, her teddy bear still clutched close. She took a small bite of food and felt warmth spread through her body. The fear that had consumed her for so long began to melt away, replaced by a fragile sense of safety. For the first time since she had been abandoned on the Texas road, Emily felt a quiet hope. She was not alone anymore. Someone had noticed her, cared for her, and helped her find her way to safety. And that hope, fragile though it was, felt like the beginning of a new life. Emily stepped into the ranch with careful, small steps, still holding her teddy bear tightly. The warmth inside was almost overwhelming after the cold, dusty road. Soft light filled the room, and the smell of home-cooked food made her stomach growl again. She had not eaten a proper meal in so long that even the faint aroma of the kitchen made her feel hopeful. The woman who ran the ranch, Mrs. Parker, knelt to Emily's level with a gentle smile. "Hi, sweetheart," Mrs. Parker said softly. "My name is Mrs. Parker. You're safe now. Let's get you something to eat and a place to rest." Emily's small hands hesitated for a moment before letting go of her teddy bear just a little. Her eyes were wide as she looked around at the cozy ranch. There were children's drawings on the walls, a few toys scattered near a corner, and a soft rug that looked perfect for sitting or lying down. It was nothing like the empty road she had spent the day on. It was a place full of care and warmth. Mrs. Parker guided Emily to a small table where a simple meal awaited her. There was a plate of scrambled eggs, warm bread, and a glass of milk. Emily stared at it, unsure if it was real. She had been hungry and alone for so long that a proper meal felt like a miracle. "You can eat as much as you like," Mrs. Parker said gently. Emily slowly took a bite, then another, and soon she was eating with a quiet, shaky appetite. Each bite made her feel stronger, as if the food was not only filling her belly but also helping to fill the emptiness in her heart. After the meal, Mrs. Parker led Emily to a small room with a soft bed, clean sheets, and a window that looked out over the fields. Emily had never had a bed to herself before. She had always slept in strange places, sometimes on the floor or in cars, never feeling truly safe. Now the bed seemed like a warm hug waiting just for her. She climbed in, still clutching her teddy bear, and felt a small comfort wash over her. As Emily rested, she thought about the cowboy who had found her on the road. His calm voice and gentle ways had made her feel safe, even when she had been too afraid to trust anyone. She wondered who he was and why he had cared so much about helping her. She thought about the sound of his horse's hooves, the kindness in his eyes, and the way he had never rushed her or forced her to speak before she was ready. Emily realized that even though she had been abandoned, there were people in the world who could be trusted. Over the next few hours, Emily slowly began to relax. She started exploring the ranch a little, walking down hallways and peeking into rooms. She saw other children who were playing quietly or reading books. They looked happy, safe, and cared for. Emily's heart ached a little when she remembered being alone on the road, but she also felt a strange comfort seeing that others had found safety and warmth here. She began to feel that maybe this could be a place for her too. Mrs. Parker noticed Emily's cautious curiosity and knelt beside her. "Would you like to meet some of the other children?" she asked gently. Emily nodded, still holding her teddy bear. Mrs. Parker led her to a small common room where a few children were coloring and playing quietly. They looked up as Emily entered. One little boy waved at her. "Hi, I'm Jake," he said cheerfully. Emily waved back shyly. Another girl smiled and said, "I'm Mia." "Do you want to play with us?" Emily hesitated for a moment but then nodded. For the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of belonging, even if it was just a small spark. As the days passed, Emily began to settle into life at the ranch. She had clean clothes, warm meals, and a safe place to sleep. She spent time with the other children, learning their games, reading books, and even helping with small chores around the ranch. Each day, she grew a little stronger and a little braver. She still thought about the road, about being abandoned, and about the fear she had felt, but those memories no longer controlled her every moment. She began to see that she could survive, even thrive, in a safe and loving environment. Emily also spent time talking with Mrs. Parker about her story, slowly, carefully, and in her own words. She told her about the car, about being left alone, and about how scared she had been. Mrs. Parker listened patiently, never interrupting, never rushing her. She offered comfort and understanding, helping Emily to process her feelings without making her feel ashamed or guilty. Emily realized that talking about her fear and pain didn't make her weak, it made her stronger. One evening, the cowboy returned to the ranch to check on Emily. She ran to meet him, holding her teddy bear, her face lighting up with joy. "I missed you," she said softly. The cowboy smiled warmly. "I missed you too, little one," he replied. He sat with her for a while, listening as she told him about her first days at the ranch. Emily described the warm meals, the soft bed, and the friends she had begun to make. The cowboy listened carefully, his eyes showing pride and relief. He had helped her find safety, and now he could see the difference it had made. The cowboy also explained to Emily that the ranch was a temporary safe place, and that there were adults who would work to figure out her future. Emily's heart sank a little, thinking about the uncertainty that lay ahead. She had begun to feel safe, but she still did not know if she would be returned to people who cared for her, or if she would be placed somewhere new. The cowboy reassured her gently. "No matter what happens," he said softly, "you will be safe, and you will always have people who care about you." Emily nodded, feeling the truth of his words. Even though the future was uncertain, she realized that she had found a place where she could heal and people who would help her through it. She hugged her teddy bear tightly and whispered, "Thank you." The cowboy smiled and ruffled her hair gently. "You're welcome, Emily. You're very brave." Over the next week, Emily began to open up even more. She shared her fears, her hopes, and even her dreams with Mrs. Parker, the other children, and the cowboy. She began to smile more, laugh more, and feel the warmth of human kindness again. The ranch became a place of healing, a place where Emily could learn to trust again, and where she could start to believe that life could be good, even after such a frightening experience. Emily also began to notice small joys in the everyday life of the ranch. She loved helping in the garden, planting seeds, and watching them grow. She enjoyed feeding the animals, especially the gentle horses that reminded her of the cowboy who had rescued her. She liked reading in the soft sunlight that streamed through the windows and listening to the other children's stories. Each new experience helped her feel stronger and more confident. As Emily healed, the cowboy continued to visit, offering gentle guidance and encouragement. He shared stories of his own childhood, lessons about courage, and small acts of wisdom that helped Emily understand the world in a kinder, safer way. Emily began to see him as more than just a rescuer. He became a mentor, someone she could trust and rely on. His presence reminded her that not all adults were frightening, and that kindness could be found even in unexpected places. One afternoon, Emily and the cowboy walked together through the fields near the ranch. The sun was warm, and the wind gently moved through the tall grass. Emily held her teddy bear loosely, feeling free and unafraid for the first time in a long while. She looked up at the cowboy and said softly, "I'm glad you found me." The cowboy smiled, his eyes kind and understanding. "I'm glad too, Emily. You are a strong little girl, and you deserve to be safe and happy." Emily felt a surge of hope and courage as she walked through the fields. She had been abandoned, scared, and alone, but now she was learning that she could survive and thrive. She had found people who cared for her, a place where she could heal, and a sense of trust that she had not known before. The road behind her was filled with fear and uncertainty, but the path ahead was beginning to feel full of promise. As the evening came and the sky turned shades of soft pink and purple, Emily returned to the ranch with the cowboy. She felt a quiet peace in her heart. She knew that the future was still uncertain, but she also knew that she was no longer alone. She had people who would protect her, teach her, and care for her. She had a place to call home, even if temporarily. And most importantly, she had begun to believe in herself again. Emily lay in her warm bed that night, holding her teddy bear close. She thought about the road, about the loneliness, and about the fear she had felt. But she also thought about the cowboy, Mrs. Parker, the other children, and the warmth of the ranch. She realized that even in the darkest moments there could be light, and that light could guide her towards safety, comfort, and hope. As she drifted off to sleep, Emily felt a sense of courage rising within her, a quiet strength that would help her face whatever came next. The morning sun spilled golden light across the ranch, warming the soft blankets in Emily's small room. She stirred awake, hugging her teddy bear tightly, and looked out the window at the fields that stretched endlessly. The wind rustled gently through the trees, carrying the promise of another calm day. Emily had grown accustomed to the warmth and safety of the ranch, and although she still thought about the road where she had been abandoned, the fear that had haunted her for so long now felt smaller, more distant. Mrs. Parker knocked gently at the door. "Good morning, Emily," she said softly. "Breakfast is ready and we have some important news today." Emily sat up, her curiosity mixed with a little nervousness. What kind of news could it be? She followed Mrs. Parker to the kitchen, where the smell of warm bread and eggs filled the room. Other children were already eating, laughing softly, and Emily felt a strange comfort in the lively atmosphere. As Emily sat down, a kind-looking man in a suit arrived at the ranch. He introduced himself as Mr. Harris, a representative from the local child protection agency. His voice was calm, professional, but not cold. "Emily," he began, "we have been able to trace your parents. They are aware of your situation, and we will be speaking with them to understand what happened." Emily's stomach twisted. She had hoped to be safe here, yet the thought of her parents brought back memories of fear and uncertainty. Mrs. Parker gently squeezed Emily's hand. "Whatever happens, sweetheart," she said softly, "you are safe here. No one will hurt you. We will make sure of that." Emily nodded, trying to feel brave. She remembered the cowboy's words that she was strong and that she deserved safety and care. She took a deep breath and prepared herself to hear the truth, even if it might be hard. When Mr. Harris returned later that day, Emily was brought into a quiet room where she could speak without interruption. Her parents were present, but they seemed nervous and unsure. Emily noticed that their eyes did not carry the warmth or care she had felt from Mrs. Parker or the cowboy. She listened quietly as they explained their side, though their words were vague and full of excuses. Emily realized slowly, with a mixture of sadness and relief, that her parents had not truly been able to care for her. Their world was too busy, too complicated, and too careless for a small child who needed love and protection. The realization hit Emily hard. Part of her had hoped they would take her back, would hold her and say everything would be okay. But another part of her felt relief. She understood now that the love she needed and deserved had not come from them. It had come from the people at the ranch, from the cowboy who had found her, and from the small kindnesses that had helped her feel safe again. After careful discussion and review, the Child Protection Agency determined that Emily would remain at the ranch, at least temporarily, until her future could be secured in a permanent and loving environment. Emily felt a mix of emotions: relief because she would stay safe, sadness because she could not return to her parents, and hope because she now understood that she could be cared for by people who truly loved her. Days passed, and Emily began to adjust fully to life at the ranch. She had her own small routine: morning meals with the other children, chores to help care for the animals, reading and learning new things, and quiet afternoons playing outside in the fields. Each day strengthened her confidence and her sense of belonging. She had begun to smile without fear, laugh freely, and even share her story with the other children, helping them understand that it was okay to be scared, but that help could always come from unexpected places. The cowboy continued to visit Emily regularly. Each time he arrived, Emily ran to greet him, her teddy bear bouncing in her arms. They walked together through the fields, tended to the horses, or simply sat quietly, enjoying the peace of the ranch. The cowboy never pressured her, never forced her to speak about her fears, but he offered lessons about courage, kindness, and trust. Emily absorbed each word, slowly building the strength that had been nearly broken when she had been abandoned. One afternoon, as they walked near the river that ran along the edge of the ranch, Emily asked the cowboy a quiet question. "Will they ever let me stay here forever?" she asked softly. The cowboy looked at her, his eyes filled with kindness. "Emily," he said, "you are brave and strong. You deserve a home where you are loved and safe. We will do everything we can to make sure you find that, and even if it takes some time, know that you are never alone." Emily nodded, feeling a small warmth spread through her chest. She understood that even though life could be uncertain, there were people she could trust and rely on. Emily also began to make friends among the other children at the ranch. She played games, shared stories, and even helped younger children who were new and frightened. She realized that she could offer the same comfort and care to others that she had received from the cowboy and Mrs. Parker. This realization gave her a sense of purpose and pride. She felt that even after being abandoned, she could still make a difference in the lives of others, just as others had made a difference in hers. As the weeks went by, Emily's bond with the cowboy grew stronger. He taught her simple lessons about riding, caring for the horses, and appreciating the beauty of the land around her. Emily listened carefully, learning not only the practical skills, but also the patience and strength it took to care for something or someone else. These lessons became a part of her healing, helping her to build trust and confidence. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with shades of orange and pink, Emily sat on the porch of the ranch, her teddy bear beside her, and reflected on her journey. She thought about the lonely road where she had been abandoned, about the fear that had once consumed her, and about the kindness of the cowboy who had rescued her. She realized that her life had changed dramatically, and that even though the future was still uncertain, she was no longer afraid. Emily's parents eventually acknowledged that they were unable to care for her, and the legal process confirmed that she would remain in the care of the ranch and Mrs. Parker until a permanent home could be found. The decision brought Emily a sense of relief and stability. She now had people who genuinely cared for her well-being, who provided safety, love, and guidance. The fear of being abandoned again no longer dominated her thoughts. With time, Emily began to dream about her future. She imagined growing up strong and confident, surrounded by people who loved her. She thought about helping others in need, just as she had been helped. She imagined riding horses freely through the fields, laughing and playing without worry. The dreams that had seemed impossible on the lonely road now felt reachable, grounded in the love and care she had discovered at the ranch. The cowboy continued to be a source of inspiration and guidance for Emily. He reminded her that even small acts of kindness could make a huge difference, that courage was not the absence of fear but the ability to act despite it, and that trust, once given to the right people, could heal even the deepest wounds. Emily listened, absorbed, and applied these lessons in her daily life, growing stronger and more confident with each passing day. One bright morning, Emily stood near the fields, watching the sunlight dance across the grass. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the people who had helped her: Mrs. Parker, the other children, the staff at the ranch, and especially the cowboy who had found her on that lonely road. She understood that her life had been difficult, but she also realized that she was surrounded by people who loved and protected her. The fear that had once defined her world had been replaced with hope, courage, and a sense of belonging. Emily's days at the ranch continued with warmth, care, and growth. She learned, played, and healed. She formed bonds that would last a lifetime and gained a sense of confidence that had once seemed impossible. And though the road she had traveled had been lonely and frightening, it had also brought her to a place where she could finally feel safe, loved, and understood. One evening, as Emily watched the stars twinkle in the dark sky, she whispered to herself, "I am safe now. I am not alone." And for the first time since being abandoned on the Texas road, Emily truly believed it. She had faced fear, found kindness, and discovered hope. Her journey was not over, but she now had the courage, support, and love to face whatever came next. The cowboy rode past the ranch that evening, tipping his hat to Emily as she waved. She smiled, her heart full of gratitude and hope. She knew that even in the darkest moments, kindness could reach her, and that there were people who would always help her find her way back to safety. Emily clutched her teddy bear and looked at the horizon, feeling a quiet but strong certainty. Life could be bright, safe, and full of love, and she had finally found her place in it.